When the contradiction between battery manufacturers and car companies is becoming more and more severe, how to dispel the concerns of car companies and re-establish a friendly relationship between the two parties has become a problem that requires long-term thinking. However, today's international market is full of various uncertainties. Especially for Chinese companies headed by the CATL, the so-called political factors have a huge impact. The Chinese market, the European market, and the North American market are now recognized as the three largest new energy vehicle markets. Undoubtedly, under the influence of CATL, BYD, and many other power battery companies, there are few Japanese and Korean battery manufacturers in China's domestic market. And when a group of power battery companies with the Chinese label tried to rush to the broader international market, many restrictions came immediately. The U.S. Reducing Inflation Act that has come into effect requires that if a car company wants to enjoy a tax credit of $7,500 for car purchases, it must be made in North America, and battery materials must come from the United States or a country with a free trade agreement with the United States. Most battery production and assembly is done in North America. Among them, the biggest blow to Chinese battery manufacturers is that after 2023, electric vehicles with batteries produced in other countries will not be able to receive subsidies. According to the latest data, CATL and BYD still rank first and second in the ranking of global power battery installations in November 2022. Undoubtedly, the installed capacity of power batteries cannot fully reflect the strength of a battery manufacturer, but it can directly reflect the business status of the enterprise. In contrast, Japanese and Korean battery manufacturers at this time have fallen behind in all aspects. Faced with this situation, whether it is LG New Energy, or Japanese and Korean battery manufacturers such as Panasonic, they are eagerly looking for a way to the incremental market. Now the problem is coming: will the North American market, which is heavily bet on, be a good choice for Japanese and Korean battery manufacturers? In addition, do the current European and American markets completely exclude Chinese companies? Hi! Welcome to Auto Age. That and more is exactly what we are going to talk about today. Okay, let's get started. In the North American market, it is mainly the radiation of the US market that plays a central role. Whether it is the American market or American cars, they are all the objects that people are scrambling to chase. However, today, the general trend of new energy vehicles has already impacted the car tycoons in Detroit. The good news is that Tesla, as a revolutionary, stood out from the crowd and quickly became number one in the world. But the bad news is that, apart from Tesla, the United States does not seem to have any local new energy vehicles worth looking forward to. Whether it is revitalizing the American manufacturing industry or the anti-globalization strategy, the United States is integrating resources in its own hands through various measures. Therefore, the promulgation of the Inflation Reduction Act is not only a signal for the beginning of change, but also a keynote for power battery companies to make choices. There is no doubt that Japanese and Korean power battery companies are the most active in the layout of the US market. Because they understand very well that only by seizing a larger market can it be possible to compete with Chinese battery manufacturers such as CATL. But now it seems that this goal, besides being far away, is still in big trouble. As far as the installed capacity of power batteries is concerned, Chinese battery manufacturers led by CATL basically account for 66% of the global market share, while Japanese and Korean battery companies such as LG New Energy and Panasonic only account for about 25%. Under such an environment, the North American market will of course be the target of Japanese and Korean companies. However, it is obviously not that simple to lay out the North American market. In 2022, South Korean media broke the news that South Korean power battery companies are being bullied by American car companies. In the process of investing and building factories in the United States, The three major Korean power battery manufacturers were all required by the relevant car companies to share core technical information. In other words, the United States requires Japanese and South Korean car companies to exchange technology for the market. LG New Energy, SK, Samsung SDI, and even battery manufacturers such as Panasonic cannot escape. Perhaps it is precisely because of this reason, superimposed on the influence of political factors, that CATL's famous US factory construction plan in early 2022 still has no action. For many Chinese battery manufacturers, the US market is not only unfamiliar, but even has many obstacles. Under such prerequisites, Japanese and Korean battery manufacturers are eager to seize the opportunity of the Inflation Reduction Act. Even if there is a potential danger of technology leakage, they are happy to gamble on the game. Whether this choice is drinking poison to quench thirst, time and the market will eventually prove it. By the way, it is understandable that Japanese and Korean battery manufacturers want to seize a larger market. But on the other side of the coin, whether it is labor costs or a development perspective, the risk of betting heavily on the US market should never be underestimated. So, do the current European and American markets completely exclude Chinese companies? Considering the current receipt of more battery orders, it is expected that our global market share will surpass CATL and become the world's number one. On the eve of listing, Kwon Young-soo, CEO of LG New Energy, once publicly challenged CATL. The argument is that LG New Energy has more international orders and can beat CATL in the international market. So, won't Chinese battery manufacturers headed by CATL really have too many international orders? In the post-epidemic era, the long-tail problem still exists. But one thing that is certain is that many domestic companies are actively taking action to find the missing 3 years, and power battery companies are no exception. In terms of policy, the European and American markets have indeed set restrictions on Chinese power battery companies. The Inflation Reduction Act of the United States and the new battery law of the European Union are all strong evidence. But this does not mean that European and American markets will completely reject power batteries with Chinese labels. The interesting thing about a market economy is that profit comes first. In other words, who doesn't want high-quality and low-cost high-quality power batteries? The reason why CATL has been able to maintain the number one position in the world for many years is not only the strong support of the Chinese market, but also the strength accumulated over the years, which is also the confidence for it to dominate the world power battery market. In December 2022, CATL's first overseas factory in Thuringia, Germany will officially mass-produce batteries. The factory plans to invest a total of €1.8 billion and has a planned production capacity of 14 GWh. In addition, many Chinese battery manufacturers have won purchase orders from overseas car companies in 2022. Many examples prove that even if Japanese and Korean battery manufacturers have certain advantages in the European and American markets, domestic battery companies are not completely without opportunities. To be honest, it is very difficult for Japanese and Korean companies to surpass China. After all, it is impossible for European and American markets to completely exclude Chinese power batteries. Okay, that's all for today. Do you want to learn about more auto stories? Your precious time with us is highly appreciated. See you.